Now, Christianity has its 13th apostle, a faithful witness to the love, mercy, and truth of Jesus Christ. How about you? Will you be the 13th apostle?
Keeping the Sabbath holy. Is it a day of worship or a day of rest? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the 13th Apostle, where we explore the good, the beautiful, and the true of the Catholic faith and the Catholic Church. This is, once again, Thomas Caffrey with my co-host Daniel Duddy. Dan, I'm trying to remember what you look like. It's been so long since I've seen you.
You wouldn't believe how much I've changed.
I can't wait. Maybe Maura could take a photo of you and send it to me. I don't know if it'll get through my filters, but
Yeah, it'll get blocked.
That's funny. I was talking to somebody, another Dan. He's in my parish, whom you know, and
I know Dan.
Yeah, Big Dan. You're a Big Dan too. He's taller than you.
Hey,
what? I just said he's taller than you.
That's it.
You're a big, strong guy. I've told you that.
Okay. Thank you.
I could see you, out of doubt. I could actually see you knocking people down to get that the beam to carry for Christ. No doubt whatsoever.
Wow, that's nice. That's a nice visual. Thank you.
Oh, it is a good visual, actually.
Yeah. You would do the same.
I'd struggle a little bit, compared to you. I mean, I'd maintain the upright position, but with more difficulty than you.
Nah.
I know.
You're talking your way to it.
You're, man, I tell you, humility it's effort. It is effortless with you.
Yeah. Try it sometime.
I'll tell you, you impress me for many reasons. That's arguably in the top three. Okay, so.
Okay.
Your Holiness is number one, okay? Well, I wasn't referring to you as the next Pope. I'm just saying Your Holiness with lowercase.
I got you.
It was an adjective. It wasn't a noun, okay?
I hear you. Yep. All right, so Big Dan. Let's go.
Yeah. Big Dan. And I was telling him, we exchanged a couple of emails, actually, about a retreat coming up, once again, at Discovery House, May 13th. And so we had this exchange, something about the flyer and whatnot, and it made me have a memory of sitting with him and this other faithful Catholic man, Jeff Bruno, out in my parish, and you know Jeff, of course.
Sure.
Jeff was giving us, on that Saturday, he was going to give us a several-hour tutorial on social media, and I went to get on my Facebook account, and I couldn't. I was locked out. And I had no idea. Now, I was going for a tutorial, which means I knew next to nothing about it. I knew how to spell Facebook, and that was it. So, and I couldn't get it. And so I'm sure something happened to this day. That was years ago. To this day, I don't know why I was locked out. I think because it was my Faith Pilgrims website and an account that was locked out. And so I'm sure I know why. Taking some stands on certain social issues and whatnot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't know how much debate there is about how to keep this Sabbath holy. Well, I'm sure people aren't interested to have a debate, but you and I are not necessarily going to have a debate. We're going to hash it out, talk about it and whatnot. Well, I don't know. I'm not even going to guess. When you were growing up, how did you, other than, and this is not to minimize it, but other than Mass, if people saw you, because they wouldn't see you in church. So if other people, and this is a question for me, it's really a twofold question. It was then and now. Mm-hmm. And so how would people know, if they saw how you lived throughout any given Sunday, and they're not Catholic, they're not Christian, could they tell that you kept it holy for the Lord in comparison to any given Saturday?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. It's a good discussion. I think it's going to provoke a lot of fond memories about Sundays, which also exposes the fact that those Sundays have changed at least a wee bit, if not a lot. So going back to my earlier years, my childhood years, we'll just say 60s, mid 60s. How would others perceive that I was keeping holy the Sabbath other than Mass? It's an interesting question. Firstly, I was in church clothes for the most part of the day because coming home from Mass, we would have breakfast in the house. And then we pretty much stayed in our church clothes. We weren't really allowed to go out the front door and go down the street and knock on doors. And part of the reasons for that were not only because we had rules regarding Mass at 128 Roosevelt Drive, our home community, but because at the time we justifiably assumed that others were also keeping holy Sunday, whether they were going to Mass or not. Sunday was Sunday. There were blue laws. For example, the stores were closed or hours were minimized. The dive bar down the end of the street, which was in walking distance for the men in the neighborhood, was closed. It wasn't closed, but you weren't allowed to buy packaged goods and things like that. So there was evidence that it was Sunday outside of our home as well. So moving down the road chronologically to today, the blue laws are lifted. We don't miss Mass in my house now as parents. And pretty much keep it the same regarding Maura and myself. The day extends into family and making it special. We have our own little traditions, Maura and I, at this late stage of our marriage where the kids are older. And I have concerns about the kids who are not going to Mass in my family because they're really missing out on that special moment, a special day of the week for all the purposes I know we're going to dig into. But we do maintain traditions because we come from that generation in the same mold, two Irish Catholic families, hers and mine. And it's fulfilling, Tom, as you know, and we're going to roll into that. Extremely fulfilling how special Sundays were. In fact, Sundays began for me Saturday night. We fasted at 12 midnight, but I wasn't even up at 12 midnight when I was a youngster, but I served Mass the next day. So the tradition on Sunday night was to take out my shoes, and my brother Charlie, take out the shoes and polish them every Saturday night, the black shoes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and have our clothes laid out and things like that for Mass. So we really went toward it early, and the day ended on Sunday, I think, with watching Disney, which I wouldn't allow my kids to watch today, but, so back in the day, right, Tom?
So
and it
true.
And then it was time to go to bed, and it was a really good week end, the end of the week. And my father was different. My mother was different. There was a nice, peaceful, laid-back way about them. There were long naps by my dad and football game on in the background, and it was just a whole different feel. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting with the blue laws because New Jersey had blue laws. There was like hints of the blue laws as far back as 1677, and because that there are two. Actually, New Jersey was divided in two. It's kind of divided into today, North and South, and I've mentioned that on the air. But this was different. There was East Jersey and West Jersey, and East New Jersey had passed legislation banning singing of vain songs or tunes on the Sabbath. It's really interesting, and in fact, our Bergen County, so in the northeastern part of the state, I think they still have the blue law. I know that as of the late 20-teens, Bergen County was the only county. It's right across from the George Washington Bridge from New York City. And they were the only town in the U.S. That still had a blue law. I can see why they would want it because that county is a mess with malls all over the place, big malls and strip malls and whatnot. The term blue laws apparently came from the type of paper, the color of paper that Puritans used in that era. So, I knew it was Sunday. My family, my siblings, and I knew it was Sunday. Obviously we knew it was Sunday, going to Mass and stuff like that. It was the only day we got bacon.
Hey, Tom, as I'm sitting here, I'm saying, I forgot to tell Tom about the bacon. That is so funny. Yeah,
that must be more widespread than I thought. Hearing you say that, I wonder if that was pretty common. That was, we were kind of peasants. We didn't know what a peasant was, but
we didn't know either. But looking back, we were most definitely,
or at least we were treated. My parents treated us like peasants.
True.
I could think of some other words that I could, especially my father. Now, I'll go as far as saying indentured servant, but anyway, or we got to the bakery after mass. We drive down to what we call the city line, which is the line that divided my hometown, South Orange, with the city of Newark, and there was a bakery there. Often across the street there was Knights of Columbus from my parish church, Our Lady of Sorrows, in South Orange, New Jersey, and they had this big sloping front lawn, and many Sundays out of the year they would have a giant bake sale, big tent, and I used to get the crumb cake, with like it was more crumb than cake, which is the way I like it. I'm sure that's.
I just salivated.
I know.
It was like an explosion of salivation in my mouth. Go ahead. These are great memories. Go.
But I think that when I was doing research for this, and I came upon something that I knew, but I had forgotten. Now, for the young people listening, they're almost certainly not going to know that, unless they're baseball lovers of baseball, they're not going to know these names that I'm going to mention. But Sandy Koufax, right? Hall of Famer, lefty, the Los Angeles Dodgers. He would not pitch on Yom Kippur. And it's funny. There's a story. There's another. His teammate, his battery. I can't say battery mate. His teammate, another pitcher, Hall of Famer Don Drysdale. He was a big guy. Koufax wasn't a big guy, but he just had this lightning speed, right? And a curveball that would, ladies and gentlemen, if you roll the ball off a kitchen table, that's how much his curveball would drop to the opposing batter. It's almost unhittable.
He would bean you in the head too. He was pretty nasty.
That was Drysdale.
Guy. I thought they both did, but
no, not with
Drysdale
Koufax.
definitely did.
Yeah, Koufax was more devout than Drysdale in a number of ways.
Drysdale was more devout about beating you in the head.
Exactly. Yeah, he was the brawler. He's a good cop, bad cop, but great pitchers. And so Drysdale, again, I said Hall of Famer, but so he filled in for Koufax, and in less than 3 innings, he gave up 7 runs. And so he said to the manager of the team, I bet right now you wish I was Jewish too. So he wouldn't play. But I mean, these are great stories, and I know I've several months ago I read a story about an observant Jew who he was a I can't remember whether it was basketball or baseball prospect who would not. This was the deal. I mean, if the team was if the school was going to pick him full ride, full scholarship. The deal was that he wasn't going to play on these high holy days. I'll give one more story. There was another Hall of Famer, but from many years before Sandy Koufax, Hank Greenberg, and of course he was Jewish, and some high holy days he would not play. Others, there was one time when it was a big playoff game, and he had to go. There was this conference of local rabbis. It's like in the old Jewish tradition of hashing out arguments and whatnot. Should he play? Can he play? And blah blah blah. It was great. And so some newspaper reporter wrote a poem about him, and it says, "Came Yom Kippur, holy fast day to the Jew, and Hank Greenberg to his teaching in the old tradition true. Spent the day among his people and didn't come to play. Said Murphy to Mulrooney, we shall lose the game today. We shall miss him on the infield and shall miss him at the bat. But he's true to his religion, and I honor him for that." So I think a lot of people, I know I am, and I would think you are too, are impressed when we experience this when you can see, because that's the liturgy. I mean, that's the public worship. That's liturgy, and in a way, when the Jew wears a yarmulke, it's a public worship. It's a liturgy in a way, and. You and I have talked about that on the air and off the air as to what it's like to live faith in the culture. And I know, I told you, when I texted you about doing this episode, I said it's going to convict me. I mean, I hate the memory of bartending on a Sunday, and that includes Easter. I don't know whether I did it for 2 years. I don't remember, but I didn't like it. I needed the job, I needed the money, and so I did it. But so then we get to the discussion of what do we do to make it a holy day? I mean, not to make it a holy day, to keep it. So it is holy. We have it. We're given it by God. It's one of His commandments. And so how do we keep that day holy?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, you and I are talking about starting the day, number one, as we should, in accordance to the third commandment, and what it truly means is going to Mass. So fundamentally moving backward toward the kickoff, putting the ball on the tee that kicks it off for game time for Sunday, is that not only do we go to Mass, but we understand that we're there to sacrifice, be a part of the sacrifice, and not to be bored at Mass, and to know that we're there to give to Mass. So that's really a function of not going to the basics. It's the reason why Sundays are really not, honored in any way as they should be, because we have a severe drop-off in the practice of going to Mass. And, you're talking to me about your convictions towards bringing it more holy. And while you're saying that, I'm squirming in my seat because I need to do a better job of getting my kids back to Mass more. And I do practice. We go to church and we look forward to it, and it becomes very special. And, when you sent that email, that text to me about your self-convictions about elevating, in the spirit of our true discipleship as brothers here, you and I, going 2 by 2, it definitely provoked it instilled some evaluation of myself on what I need to do. And I couldn't get past my kids, Tom. I couldn't get past the fact that it starts with Mass, the beauty of the Mass, and how I can't think anymore about what it's going to do for me unless I feel satisfied that I've secured my job as a father and gone to, especially my sons, as leaders, providers, and protectors, and say, look, you got to come back, you got to step up. And then I can go back to see how I can nurture and fertilize Sunday, more so for Maura and I. I sit in anguish, actually, many Sundays. So I myself am not really honoring the day as I should be,
What do you think your children would think, especially your sons, but no, actually maybe a little bit more emphasis on your sons, but just a hair. If they came over, if they were going to say, hey, listen, Pop, we're going to come over and we'll watch the football, and you said, no, I'm not watching football anymore on Sundays.
Oh, that would be powerful to them. It would mean a lot. And I would have no problem saying that, and I'd have a problem doing it, but that's why they call it sacrifice. If that were to get them back to church, of course I wouldn't say it unless I meant it. Then I would by all means do it. Let me tell you.
So wait, that's a transaction though, right? Are you saying I'll do that if this happens with them?
Yes.
No, okay. So it's not that you would do it just because of and I'm not pounding it, because I could say something similar about myself. So you wouldn't do it because, okay, I've just decided I'm going to do whatever I can to make this holy for the sake of holiness. And my sake, my soul, I'm speaking for you, my sake, my soul, and to gift as a gift to God. And if that happens to have a residual effect or a secondary effect, a benefit of showing my children, wow.
Okay, sure. So I get you. So what we're doing is you're combining the two, those two concerns or options. What would I do in light of my kids, and what would I do?
Yeah, it's like, okay, God, I have cancer.
In light of my soul.
If you cure me of my cancer, I'll never. And I had a friend who said this. He's dead now, God rest his soul. But he said, if you cure me of this cancer, I'll go back to church. I'll go back to Mass. Now, so that's the transaction, as opposed to him just saying, okay, I'm going to do it because I love God, and this is the right thing to do. We're going to keep this covenant. This is how one of the ways we manifest that covenant. So.
Yeah, so I could definitely give up football myself personally for the face value of my own soul, and bringing that conviction to myself personally with the fallout, not necessarily for the fallout, the positive fallout being that my sons would follow, firstly by going to Mass. Oh, Dad's giving up football? Oh, my goodness. Well, I better at least get to Mass. If I were to do it solely for myself and not say it as an ultimatum to them or, hey, I'm doing this for you, I think it's even more powerful. So I get your point. I could easily do that. I gave up football as a football coach. I gave up Sundays, which is a great preparation day for the week. And typically that is the best preparation day for your staff. And it's a film day in all other programs for your players. I made it clear for my last 10 years of head coaching, I do not want to see you guys on Sunday. I want you to go home and have a day of rest. And staff, we will never meet on Sunday. Whatever you guys do on Sunday, that's on you. But I am never going to call for a meeting or anything regarding football on Sunday. And and it paid off because we came back bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Monday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At the time, football had become vocational by the grace of God. So, and I think, going back to this, what you just painted, this vision of giving up football for the sake of my sons indirectly, I think it may have brought some of our football players back to Mass, because that was quite a statement. It may have brought our families back to Mass, because I would tell them we never meet on Sunday because that's a day of rest, and that's a day where we practice our faith by going to Mass. And I would make that determination before the season, so parents knew they had Sunday off.
I can always testify with the impact of your work and the Virtue program as part of the football team at then Monsignor Donovan High School, and now Donovan Catholic. With my son Kevin, and I think you were the only. I don't know if you were the only one, but you had the most impact from the standpoint of him seeing another man in his life who's faithful to the church, because most of his friends, perhaps all of them, didn't have a father such as you in terms of practicing in publicly. Okay, again, we're talking liturgy. Publicly practicing their faith. And you've heard me say numerous times that when you and I grew up, we lived and certainly being in the northeast part of New Jersey, Catholics were all around. So I grew up right down the street from Seton Hall Preparatory School. It's now in another town, but Seton Hall High School, Seton Hall Prep High School, and then Seton Hall University. I saw all my peers at Mass. I saw all their parents at Mass, right? Yeah. My children didn't have that. And most people's children don't have that today. Let's face it, that's a rarity.
That's a great point.
So when Kevin's seeing you, it's like, okay, this is, even if it's subconscious, this is, okay, it's Dad, and now there's Coach Study. So it's like I've said so many times, you don't know the impact you're having. And people, in our audience, you don't know the impact you have. What you do teaches others. And most of the time, we'll never know. Well, I'm sure we'll know in the next life, but we won't know in this life, who we're impacting. So.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah. And I know we're running out of time, but I gave a talk this morning at Camden Catholic High School to the junior and seniors there, and I put that on them the same way. Unbelievable influence that awaits them with a sheer commitment and a love for Christ, and the acknowledgement that they have nothing to do with the fact that they are here, that they are created, and they need to step up to it just in little ways. And it would be so powerfully influential and fulfilling for them to do so. So we've got to commission ourselves, I believe, Tom, recommission, take it to another level. I know we're running out of time. I was going to blindside you and ask you what your conviction might be in light of this conversation on Sundays.
Yeah, I've been thinking quite a bit about that. I rarely watch sports. I'm interested in that, but sports have become so political that I just can't take it. So I haven't watched it in a long time. But, you brought it back to Christ. And in Mark 2, verse 27, the Sabbath was made for humankind. Jesus tells the Pharisees, he told the Pharisees, and not humankind for the Sabbath, not mankind for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. So it's made for us, so what do we do in return? That Sabbath is a gift for us. What are we doing in return? And I would say one thing, this is true for every day, but it's truer for the Sabbath, for Sunday. is what is our intent with whatever we're going to do? Do we offer it up to the Lord? If I'm busting my tail working in the garden and pulling out roots and transplanting stuff like that on Sunday, I'm clearly not resting. But if I offer that up to the Lord, if I say, listen, help me to glorify you, I want to glorify you with whatever I do. And it's like I've told you, when you asked me to pray for you when you're going to give a talk or something like that. And I say, yeah, okay, whatever you do, that's your prayer. I mean, that's your prayer. And I think that the first thing we can think of is what is our intent when we awaken on Sunday and, we offer up ourselves to the Lord. Okay, what's the intent? Okay, what can we do? So
I know we're going off the air right now, but that right there, that last sentence is the answer that we all need to reflect on. To be intentional on Sunday. What is our intent? Wake up to it with a gentle resolution and enjoy it and give it to our Lord.
Okay, so does that mean when your team scores the winning touchdown, you say, thank God? And that's your...
Well, I've decided based on this conversation, I'm going to give up football in the winter, in the spring, and in the summer.
All right.
It's played in the fall. It's played in the fall, Tom. So that was a joke.
We're going to. I'm so focused on time, I didn't get it right away.
I know.
All right, brother. What's coming up?
All right. Stay tuned, folks, for the Angelus and Your Prayer Intentions with Peter and Jemmy.
WQPHradio.org. Thank you for your support, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it coming. We always appreciate it. God bless you, Danny.
God bless you, Tom. God bless you all.
We invite you to say the prayer to St. Michael the Archangel. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
Thank you for listening to the 13th Apostle with Dan Duddy and Tom Caffrey. For more information on Dan, visit his website at www.danduddy.com or email dcduddy@gmail.com. Tom's website is faithpilgrims.com or email trcaffrey@faithpilgrims.com. How about you? Will you be the 13th Apostle?